If you walked into a room right now and all eyes were on you, how would you act? Would you walk like you belonged, like you had nothing to prove? Or would you shrink back, trying to be just right so as not to be noticed? The question isn't whether you have enough confidence. The question is, have you chosen to live as a confident person? Most of us grow up with the false idea that confidence is a reward for success, that you can only hold your head high when you have the evidence to prove you're worthy. But the truth is the exact opposite. Successful people don't wait for confidence to act. They act like they already have it. They walk like victory is a done deal. And because they act that way, life is forced to respond accordingly. Confidence isn't something you're born with. It's a decision, a choice, an inner commitment to no longer let doubt define you. You don't need more degrees, more approval, more proof to step out into the world ready. You just need a defining moment. The moment you decide that from now on, confidence is your default setting. And when that happens, you'll realize a startling truth. The world doesn't treat you for what you're worth, but for how you bring yourself to light. If you step into life as if you're the heir to victory, you'll find doors begin to open, not because you got lucky, but because you dared to live as if they were meant to be yours. And that's when the journey begins. Have you ever thought that confidence is something you have to feel before you can act? That you have to wait until you're ready, until you're in the right frame of mind, or until you have enough evidence that you're capable? If that's the belief you're holding, it's time to break it. Because the truth is, confidence isn't a feeling. It's a decision, a deliberate choice, made not when you feel certain, but when you're shaking your head. Most people live their lives as if confidence is a reward for success. They think that only when they've achieved something big, have enough money in their bank account, have the right title, or have the recognition of others, can they express themselves decisively. But if you look at the people who changed history, Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, Andrew Carnegie, Edwin Barnasew, realize one thing: they didn't act because they had confidence. They act as if confidence is a fact, and the world is forced to respond to that belief. Ford built an industry that the world thought was impossible. Edison failed thousands of times without ever doubting the end result. Barnes came to Edison not to ask for a job, but to announce that he would become his business partner, with nothing but confidence. They don't feel confident. They act as if they are already winners. And that produces results. You don't have to wait until you feel good to move forward, because if you wait, you'll wait forever. Emotions are variables. Faith is a constant if you choose to. You can't control your emotions directly, but you can control how you act in spite of them, and it's disciplined action that builds faith, not the other way around. Instead of asking, how can I feel more confident? Start asking, if I were a confident person, what would I do right now? And then do it. No bargaining. No procrastination. No asking for permission. Just act, because your actions are teaching your mind who you are. Every time you stand up when you're scared, every time you speak up when you're unsure, every time you step forward instead of back down, you're reaffirming, I am this person. Your mind doesn't differentiate between real feelings and acting. It just needs repetition. And when you repeatedly act like a confident person, you make it yours. Not because your initial feelings favored you, but because you chose not to wait for it. You chose to act as if confidence were your default. And the magic is, when you live as if you already have it, it will come. But only for those who are brave enough not to wait. Imagine a different version of yourself. Not the one who hesitates, who weighs every step for fear of making a mistake, but the one who steps out into the world with an upright posture, a sharp gaze, and a weighty silence. That person does not need external assurance to move forward. They do not wait for praise to act, do not wait for consensus to speak up. They simply know who they are and act from that place of knowing. You do not need to imagine for long, because that version is not unfamiliar to you. It is already living inside, just obscured by years of doubt, by the voices of people who have made you shrink back, by memories of failures that have made you question your own worth. But you need to understand clearly, that version without doubt is not an illusion. It is you when you stop listening to the echoes of the past, when you are silent long enough to listen to yourself. Doubt is not inborn. Children don't ask if they are worthy to move. They don't wait for permission to explore, to ask questions, to reach out to the world. They act because their inner instincts have never been broken. You were like that. Until society, prejudice, failure, and fear started to build walls in your mind. And then you learned to sit still, to doubt before you act, to ask permission before you dare to assert. But remember, if it can be learned, it can be removed. The important question is not how to be more confident, but who am I when I no longer doubt? When you remove the layers of prejudice, the old stories, the memories that once made you cringe, you will find yourself again. A person who knows his or her own worth, not because of achievements, not because of the eyes of others, but because his or her own presence is enough to create an impact. A person does not need to speak loudly to be heard, because the energy that comes from self-knowledge is enough to make others pay attention. And when you realize that, every action changes. You will no longer need to say, I hope, but instead, I am doing. You will not say, I will try, but I choose. The doubt that once made you hesitate before opportunities will give way to decisiveness, because now you do not need external certainty. You have chosen to live with internal certainty. Ask yourself every morning, if I were a person without doubts, what would I do today? I would send that email, I would stand up to speak, I would make a decision, I would pursue the project, not because I am guaranteed success, but because I no longer define myself by results. I act not to prove anything to the world, but to be true to my own unquestionable nature. When you live like this every day, you're not just resetting your consciousness, you're reborn. No fireworks needed. Just a decision. From now on, I'm going to live as if I'm already the version of myself I thought I was supposed to be. And when you act from that place, the world will begin to reflect back to you exactly what you've chosen to believe. Napoleon Hill once wrote that whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve. That's not a quote for instant inspiration. It's a formula, a law, a proven mechanism of the mind that has been studied by the great men Hill spent his life studying. And at the heart of that law is autosuggestion, the art of reprogramming the mind through emotional repetition. This is not self-deception or blind positive thinking. Autosuggestion is how you teach your subconscious mind who you are, what you can do, and what is possible for your life. The subconscious mind doesn't argue, doesn't doubt, doesn't analyze right or wrong. It just accepts something repeated often enough, strongly enough, emotionally enough, and then it makes it default. The more you say something with such intensity, the more you visualize it as already happening, the more your subconscious mind will take it as true. And from there, all your choices, reactions, and behaviors will automatically follow the set direction. Hill once asked his students to write down their biggest life goal called, their chief aim, and read it aloud every morning and every night. Not whisper it, not read it in your head, say it in a clear, decisive, emotional voice, as if it were already true. Because he understood that once that statement penetrates deep enough into your subconscious, you have no choice but to live it. Your body will act on what you believe, the environment will respond to what you say, and the world, whether it likes it or not, will gradually adjust to fit the reality you have built in your mind. Edison repeated a belief, the light bulb can be created, and he failed more than 10,000 times before he succeeded. But he never said, I was wrong, or it probably won't work. Every time he failed, he just said, I just found another way that won't work. That's not just persistence, that's autosuggestion at its highest level. He repeated to himself day after day that the outcome was certain, and eventually he lived up to it. You can do the same. Start with a simple but powerful statement. For example, I am a person who acts with certainty. I don't wait for inspiration. I don't need confirmation. I know I was born to lead. Say it every morning before the world starts to pressure you. Say it every night before you fall asleep and let your subconscious do its work in silence. Say it not just with words, but with your body, with your posture, with your eyes, with the determination in every action. It's not whether you believe when you first start. It's whether you repeat it often enough until it becomes a true belief. That's what separates the average person from the miracle worker. Average people say, I hope I can. Extraordinary people repeat, I will, over and over again until the universe has no choice but to respond to that belief. Autosuggestion is the ultimate tool for redefining yourself. It requires no external conditions. It doesn't depend on circumstances. It requires you to choose a belief and stick with it until the world no longer recognizes you because you have become what you once said silently. But now, you don't say it silently. You say it loudly. You say it clearly. You say it with absolute conviction. And then the impossible becomes undeniable. Acting as if you are already successful is not a cheap, positive psychology trick. It is a principle of operation for all leaders. When you act as if you have already achieved what you want, you are not just acting, you are training your subconscious. You are creating a rhythm, an operating model, a vivid image of a new self that is no longer waiting, no longer testing, no longer asking for permission, but a self that acts, builds, and leads as if victory were already a given. The mind does not distinguish between vivid imagination and actual memory. If you keep picturing yourself failing, replaying your mistakes, and associating yourself with the image of the one who is trying, you will program your subconscious to live in that pattern. But if you start acting like you're already successful, the way you walk, the way you talk, the way you handle problems, the way you walk into a room, you're sending a clear message to yourself, I'm ready. I'm here. I'm here. Look at truly successful people. They don't elaborate. They don't worry about what others think. They don't try to convince anyone that they deserve to be there. They simply show up as if it's theirs. And the truth is, that's why people trust them, support them, and empower them, not because they're better than you, but because they act like they already have what you're hesitant about. When you walk into a room, walk as if you've been invited to lead. When you start a project, start as if it's going to be a huge success. When you introduce yourself, speak with the voice of someone who has already achieved results, not the voice of someone who is hoping for them to happen. Because the world doesn't give a chance to someone who is good enough. The world gives a chance to someone who presents themselves as if they are already good enough. The act as if mindset is not arrogance. It is a commitment to act before you are emotionally ready. It is a discipline of action that transcends insecurity. When you act as if you are already successful, you don't need motivation. You create motivation. You no longer wait for a reason to get up. You are the reason. You are the command to act that your subconscious cannot ignore. If you write a book, write it as if thousands of people are waiting to read it. If you start a business, build it as if you will succeed whether they support you or not. If you practice speaking, presenting, negotiating, practice as if you are already an expert. No one needs a certification to act confident. They just have to choose. And you need to understand one important thing. The world does not operate on a wait until you are ready basis. The door only opens to those who knock repeatedly, who walk forward repeatedly, and who act as if there is already a place for them on the other side. When you act like a successful person, you cause others to adjust the way they see you, treat you, and value you. From there, you will realize something strange. The more you act as if there is, the closer you get to that reality. Opportunities begin to appear, quality relationships begin to form, positive feedback begins to increase, not because of magic, but because you are operating on a higher frequency. The frequency of a leader, no longer waiting for permission to move forward. And if you ask, should I pretend? The answer is no. You are not pretending. You are rehearsing your true self. Your unactivated self is held back by doubt, prejudice, and fear. But today you choose to act as if it is already alive. And tomorrow, you don't have to act anymore because you have already become. So from this moment on, change your language, change your attitude, change your choice of actions. Live, work, and walk as if you are already successful. Because if you wait to become, you will always be waiting. But if you act as if you are already, the universe will start building the path to make it happen, not later. Now, doubt is not natural. It is not part of your nature. It is not born with you. Doubt is something that is planted in your mind over the years, through criticism, through skeptical looks, through unresolved failures. But here is the truth. If doubt can be learned, then you can learn to remove it. And the only way to kill doubt is not to convince it with arguments, but to make it grow no more, through action. You cannot reason your way out of doubt. The more you think, the more space you create for doubt to arise. The more you try to prove in your mind that you are good enough, you are capable enough, you are smart enough, the more doubt finds a way to creep in. The mind does not overcome doubt with arguments. It overcomes it with evidence. And the only evidence the mind can trust is action. You can say, I will do it 100 times, but if you don't get up and start, your subconscious will register that you are a person who does not take action. And from there, all the beliefs you have built will be empty talk. But if you shut up without shouting and start taking steps, writing the first sentence, making the first phone call, taking the first step on your dream project, then doubt will begin to weaken. Because doubt cannot live in an environment of movement. It can only survive when you are standing still. Look at any successful person you admire. None of them started with absolute certainty. None of them had a perfect blueprint from the start. But they took action anyway. They used action as a weapon to silence the voice in their head that said, can I do it? They knew that the answer was not in the thought, but in the next step. The longer you wait to feel ready, the more time you give doubt time to take root. The more you delay taking the first step, the more you convince yourself that you are not enough. Every time you choose to procrastinate because you are afraid of making a mistake, you are training yourself to a failure mindset, to act only when you are certain. But the truth is, certainty comes only after action, never before. When you take even the smallest action, you are sending a signal to your subconscious. I am not a person who waits. I am a builder, not a dreamer. And your subconscious registers that as a new reality. You are rewriting your inner record not by declaration, but by demonstration, not by words, but by steps. Action has a deeper effect. It creates momentum. One small step leads to another. One small victory leads to a big victory. You don't have to turn your whole life upside down in one day. You just have to do something your old self avoided. Write a page, send an email, post a video, meet a friend, anything that builds momentum, repeat. Doubt hates continuity because continuity creates irrefutable evidence. And when the evidence is enough, doubt has no place to cling. Your mind will stop believing I'm not sure anymore and start believing I did it and I will continue. That is how you retrain belief, not by inspiration, by action. And this is what you need to remember. Action is not the reward for confident people. Action is the path to confidence. If you take action every day, even if it is just a small step but never stop, you will gradually become a person that doubt cannot live with. A person does not need to believe in himself to start, but because he started, he learned to believe. So, from today, stop trying to suppress doubt in your mind with tired inner dialogue. Do not try to feel better to start. Just do one thing now, and let that movement speak for you. Doubt will scream at first, but if you keep going, it will gradually become quiet, because action has one thing that doubt cannot overcome: truth. And truth does not need to be argued. It just needs to be lived. You've heard enough theory, enough analysis, enough encouragement. But change doesn't come from knowledge, it comes from action. The question now is no longer can you, but will you? Do you dare to walk as if you are ready even when you have doubts? Do you dare to live as if confidence is your default setting, not the privilege of a select group? Do you dare to cut the cord and commit to yourself? From today on, I will live as the person I was meant to be. No one can do it for you. No video, no book, no advice can replace your personal decision. Confidence is not something you find. It is something you build every day. Through your actions, through the way you bounce back from failure, through the way you step into the world as if you were meant to be there all along. Write your manifesto. An affirmation that every time you say it, your body should vibrate. For example, I am a doer without hesitation. I do not ask for permission to exist. I do not wait for approval to step forward. I am a builder, a leader, and a steadfast person. Write it. Read it out loud every morning. Look yourself in the mirror. Say it until your subconscious mind can no longer distinguish between a dream and a reality. Then choose a symbolic action, something your old self would avoid. Do it within the next 24 hours. Don't wait for tomorrow. Don't wait for inspiration. Don't ask for validation. Just do it. Because every time you act as if you've already succeeded, you're deepening the foundation for a new Yuan that is no longer driven by fear but driven by vision. Finally, remember, the world doesn't give opportunities to those who hope. It gives paths to those who decide. You don't need permission to be great. You just choose. Choose to live with confidence as your default. Choose to act as if you already won. And when you choose to do that every day, the little decisions add up, the steps build up, and one day you will look back not and say, could I? But I did, because I acted as if I could not fail. The time is now, not later, not when it's easier. Right now. Begin, and don't stop.